Okay, thank you so much for your patience. We were working out the logistics of our presentation, but thank you so much for coming this morning. My name is Maximina Vivera. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Residential Student Services. Everyone calls me Maxie, so please feel free. This morning, our presentation will be on, managing disruptive or emotionally distressed students. And we've actually done this presentation several times for professional development days. But we think it is so incredibly important because we realize that students are dealing with a variety of issues that are going on for them. And we want to be able to make sure that you have the tools and you have the support and the information to be able to help these students out, because ultimately what we want to do is make sure that our students are receiving services, but that they're also being successful in their studies. And what I am fortunate in terms of this presentation is to have a great team. I'm hoping that you can see them back here, who will be presenting with me as well. And so I'd like for them to introduce themselves first. We'll start with Dr. Kiefner.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Vincent Kiefner. I'm the Director of Counseling, Disability, Alcohol, and Other Drug Services, located in Downs Hall.
Melissa Sturba. I'm the Student Support Services Advocate. My office is located in the office of the Vice President for Student Affairs in Kane Hall, room 127.
Good morning. I'm Robin Mansfield. I'm the Director of Student Health Services, and my office is in Downs Hall.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Rodriguez. I am the Director for Community Standards and Student Conduct, and my office is located in the Myron Student Center, room 317.
Great, thank you. And I apologize, I'm dealing with some allergies. Like, who isn't dealing with allergies now? So I'm going to be coughing a little bit throughout the presentation. But definitely, one of the things that we want to do is make sure that you have information in terms of how we identify students who might be distressed in their classrooms or might be really calling out for help or needing some assistance. So part of the presentation includes being able to identify some of those behaviors. In addition, we will definitely provide you with resources and information in terms of contact individuals on campus and this particular team to be able to reach out to us and get that information for our students.
Okay, so the first thing is, what do we know? And we know that students who are suicidal often do not go to the counseling center as their first point of contact or any mental health provider. They may go to a friend, a family member. Sometimes they end up in my office, but students most likely are not going to go to the counseling center as their first point of contact, and that's where we really want to get them. We know that students are dealing with stress, anxiety, and depression. The statistic up there, roughly 30% of college students report being so depressed that they are unable to function. That actually comes from the American College Health Association's National College Health Assessment, which is done every semester. And actually, the latest statistic is that it's up to 40% of students are just saying they're so depressed that they're unable to function. Another part of that assessment looks at what things are impacting their academics in a negative manner. And the top three things nationally and for our Kane students are stress, anxiety, and depression. So these things are really impacting students. So we want to be able to know how to get them the help that they need. And that's really the goal of our offices, to help support your efforts in their academic success by getting them the help that they need. Most students report anxiety as a major symptom, and like I said, most often you may be the person that they're coming to first. So we want to help you know how to get them the help that they need. Reporting these behaviors. Sometimes faculty have said that they're reluctant to maybe report these behaviors, and these are some of the reasons that have come out of report, they may feel that they want a spontaneous resolution, that things are just going to get better over time. And we really encourage you to not take that approach and look at things up front and get them the help early rather than later, because things can escalate and it can get harder to get them the help that they need. They may feel that they're not supported by administration, or that it might reflect that they're inadequate at doing their job, or even retaliation. And we really want to get that across, that that is not the approach here, or that's not how we do things here. We want to support your efforts in the classroom by getting students the help that they need.
So part of, and a major piece of providing students with support also includes, as Robin mentioned earlier, reporting the incidents to someone on campus so that we can provide that support to the student. The university actually established the Kane University Behavior Intervention Team, and what that team does, and as you can see, these are the actual members of the team, including the individuals behind me, is that this team receives information from you, from faculty and staff, and sometimes even students, that are concerned about behaviors that they're seeing in their own students in the classroom. Or possibly, if you're a staff member, you may have someone who walks into your office or into your area and actually behaves in a certain way that is concerning of you. And we're actually going to provide you what those behaviors are. But primarily what occurs is that there is a reporting structure. And the nice thing about this particular team is that, as we know, students may behave in certain ways in different offices on campus. And at times, we don't have the opportunity of communicating with each other. The behavior intervention team was established for that particular reason. And one of the good things is that when we receive information from you, the team, which actually meets on a regular basis, at least every other week, if not once a week, we will meet and we'll talk about the student. And what we find is that we're not surprised when, as we're discussing the student, it's possible that Nicole Rodriguez has actually seen the student in student conduct, or that I may be someone who's been working with the student in the residence halls. And what that does for us is that it collectively allows us to see that there's a pattern of behavior that maybe we're concerned with, and that we can then be able to refer that student to the office that they need to be. So that's the wonderful thing about this particular team. Now, just to explain what we do as a team, in addition, what we do is that, again, we provide consultation. We will have a discussion about what's occurring with that particular student. We consult, and we also support you as a faculty or staff member. There are times that we will reach out to you to ask you for specific information about an incident. Maybe we need some additional details that will help us to, again, refer the student. But a lot of that is discussion about what's happening for that student. In addition, we continue, as I mentioned, to gather information and to assess the information. And then we make appropriate and we recommend intervention strategies. Would it be helpful if the student actually sees someone in the counseling center? We might actually even find that it might be a medical issue as opposed to a counseling situation. So we may refer the student over to health services. And we, again, determine those strategies as part of the QUB. We will connect that student, so we may have to meet with that student to talk to them. That usually happens. And 9 times out of 10, the student is very appreciative of that. Because again, if they're struggling in their classes, they're going to be just as concerned about how well they're going to do in that class. So when we reach out, we're very sensitive about the conversation with the student. And again, we provide them the services. Most important, I think, is monitoring the behavior with that student. So again, we continue to talk about the students even after they receive services, just to make sure that they're still in line with what they needed for their support. It's not going. Oh, here we go. Okay, here we go. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there is a way, a structured way to report incidents to us. And Nicole Rodriguez is going to review that process with you. I'm making her exercise back and forth, so.
Yes, we all need the exercise. Thank you, Maxie. Good morning, everyone. So by a show of hands, has anyone in here ever had to complete a QUB report? Oh, okay, very good, very good. So we do have some people who are familiar. In any case, our reporting system is available online. If you look for that in the icon there that says click here to report concerning behavior, that will take you to an online form. You will give us as much information as possible. We want to make sure that, again, we're connecting with that student in a timely fashion. And we also work very closely with Joy. I know she said she was going to be here, Joy Moskovitz, because I know sometimes she is that first point of contact. Faculty will call her office or the dean's office. And I did want to mention that each year prior to the school year, each QUB team member is assigned to a college kind of as a liaison. So we will connect with either the dean, the executive director, or the assistant to the dean to set up maybe a one-on-one meeting with, during your departmental staff meetings. This is also available for departments as well, so if you ever want us to come and have a one-on-one session with you, if you have questions particularly pertaining to your unit or your college, because I know in some colleges they will experience maybe a higher level of students, concerning behavior rather than some others. And we also know that students will experience distress during particular times of the year. We might see a heightened stress during finals and midterms, maybe at the beginning of the year, et cetera. But in any case, the system is online. Or you can contact directly the Office of the Vice President for Student Affairs, and we will also go over a resource brochure with you.
We want to be able to show you the actual incident report. So we're going to be able to pull it up just very quickly, because the helpful thing about the incident report is that it actually identifies specific behaviors that allows you to easily just check off what you may see. You may find that a student has been very active and really participating in your classroom. They're excited about what's going on in the class. And then the next time they have a class, they're very quiet. Maybe they look very sad. They're not really speaking or participating too much. And so that might be something that you may find concerning, and you would be able to identify that type of behavior on the report. We specifically made this report a little bit different from what we do in the past, really because, again, it allows you to look at the different behaviors, and it makes it very easy for you to check off on what's going on. So Nicole's going to be able to show that in 1 second. 2 seconds, I heard. So this is the actual web page for the Office of Student Conduct, which is Nicole's area. And within that particular web page, you will find that link that says Report for Concerning Behaviors. Now, you may actually find another link that says Incident Report. You may actually have an issue with finding any of the links. If you email us directly, that's just as fine as just doing the reports. So it doesn't have to be specific to the report. You can just send us an email. You can give us a phone call. As long as you're communicating with us, I think that's really what we really need in this, for this system to work for our students.
So this is the actual report. I don't know if you were able to see what I just did. Let me go back real quick. So I actually pulled up the Kane University Behavioral Intervention Team website. And again, that icon is right there. What Maxie was referring to on my website is a similar looking icon. And again, you don't have to concern yourself with trying to determine whether the behavior is actually a student conduct issue or if it's concerning behavior. The beauty about the Behavioral Intervention Team report is that there's a section here that gives you some things you can check off that kind of guide you into determining what the concerning behavior is. If you're, have students that are feeling sad or depressed, you're noticing that they're, having mood swings, that there may be disruption in the office, overly anxious, and if they're acting threatening in any way. We'll also go over emergency and non-emergency reports as well, and also statements or writings or comments. We know sometimes there are particular classes that students are asked to write journals that are reviewed, or they're asked to write papers about very sensitive topics, and once they start revealing certain things to you, it's clear, yeah, you're going to be concerned, you know, if a student is saying that they have been having suicidal thoughts, or if they have been depressed, or if they have experienced some type of abuse in their life. You know, we have to figure out how we discern between someone writing about something and someone who is in a true emergency situation. In any case, whatever at all the concern is, even if it's something that is done through a class assignment, you know, let's have that conversation and discuss whether or not it's something we want to get them an assessment for. So the box there again is going to give you the opportunity for you to give us a narrative, more particular information, and if there's any supporting document, this form has the ability to upload the actual assignment paper if you want to give it to us, or photographs, anything that you want to submit, and then we also encourage you to keep a copy of the report, and then you hit submit. These reports are constantly coming in, and as much as Maxie and I hate to admit, but Maxie more than me, she's up like at 4 o'clock in the morning reading emails. I try to be asleep at 4 o'clock in the morning, but in any case, these emails do come through right away. Same thing with the incident reports. Most of you will all be completing incident reports that have occurred in academic buildings. The reporting structure is just a little bit different for the residence halls, but I don't think you have to be concerned with that. But in any case, it also includes off-campus behavior, so if there is something that happens off-campus, those reports are also funneled through my office. Mickey, can you get us back to them?
And also, just very quickly, if you're not sure if the behavior that you see is not on this form, still report it. We don't have an expectation that you're going to be able to diagnose anything, or that you're going to know exactly what's happening with that student. But if you're not sure, just report it to us, and again, we can always get it to a different office if it needs to be in a different office. I see a hand right there.
Mental problem. We are not psychiatrists, we're not social workers, and we're not doctors. Let me finish, please. I really am very, very concerned about this. I was speaking to an attorney in New York, and he was telling me about what goes on in many universities, the lack of insight or sophistication by many people working in a particular university.
Yeah. Well, just.
This is a lot of very serious stuff.
Well, just to address some of your concerns, definitely whenever we have any type of a system at the university, our university council is involved in making sure that protections are there for our students. And for this particular case, definitely, this has all been approved and has been part of our system for some time. In addition, the reports are confidential because really when a report comes to us as a QUB report, this is the team that actually gets that information. It's not open to everyone on campus. It's not available that way. And we're actually going to speak a little bit about confidentiality in a few minutes during the presentation. So that might answer some, excuse me, some of your questions as well. Again, yeah, I appreciate that. And again, as I mentioned before, that is not an expectation of this team and the university. We're not expecting you to diagnose. We're not expecting you to counsel. That's the reason why we have the resources that we have here. And that's really, really important to us. If anything comes up, please give us a call. If you have questions, please give us a call. But that is not an expectation of this team and of the university.
Is that line secure?
It would be a university phone call. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is that line secure?
Well, you're calling on campus. But if you don't mind, for time's sake, I think we have to continue with the presentation, and I can answer any questions you have at the end of the session. Okay.
We also consult with the National Association for Behavioral Intervention and a risk management, NCERM, which is a risk management association. I don't know if that addresses any of your concerns, but they are also consultants as well. So the process is that once we receive the incident report, we are generally responding, within 24 hours. Again, if there is any emergent situation, the expectation is, especially for evening classes, all of our offices are 9 to 5. So if there is an emergent situation after 5 p.m., we do ask for you to call campus police, and they know the guidelines for addressing students of concern, if they need to be transported to the hospital, et cetera. The QUB team regularly meets about every 2 weeks, and we will convene as needed if we need to discuss a student, and most oftentimes if there's an immediate, if a student needs to immediately be addressed, that's either through my office or through Maxie's office, and then generally we will send them for an assessment and first availability with the counseling center. And then, again, the responses may mean immediately meeting with the student. On occasion, we have asked that students not return to a particular class, especially if there's some fear of harm to themselves or to others, until we've had a chance to assess the situation. That is why we would ask that faculty and staff report these things sooner rather than later. Please do not allow a situation to escalate, to the end of the semester where you may be at your wit's end and now you want the student removed from the class. It just kind of doesn't work that way. So the earlier we can get an intervention, the best. Again, we will send the student to an assessment for the counseling center. By no means are we ever mandate that a student continue with counseling. We strongly make recommendations for that they continue with whatever recommendations are made by the counseling center. And sometimes if it's involving, alcohol or drugs at a higher level, if there is higher level risk involved, we will refer them out to outside agencies. Sometimes the behavior may result in a student conduct issue. So then if that is a decision that the QUB team makes, then the student conduct process is evoked, which is somewhat similar with meeting with a student. However, sometimes student conduct issues can be a little bit more consequential, and really depending upon the situation, there's always a process. So we are always giving our students due process. We're having a conference with them or a hearing. Yes, sometimes those hearings do result in students being suspended or expelled from school, and generally that's a determination that is made much further along in the process. And at all times, students have the option to appeal those decisions as well. Okay.
Just, all joking aside, I know Nicole mentioned that I do tend to check my emails at very irregular times of the evening and morning. But I will say that please do not hesitate to submit the report. If something happens on a Friday and you think to yourself, well, I'll just wait till Monday to submit the report, we're asking you not to do that. Submit it as soon as you can, even if it's an email. Again, if you're sending us an email via your phone or, again, from your home, you can do that as well. We actually check emails on a regular basis, and we've actually had to respond to some of those reports over the weekend. Again, this is about providing services to the students. And so the quicker we can do that in support of those students, definitely the better. So I wouldn't also want you to wait for too long. Okay. Okay. Oh, yes. Yeah, we're going to do the other. So, we're going to switch to another slide right now because we also wanted to show you something that at some point you will be receiving in the fall. Yeah. And then we're going to go to the first slide.
Okay, so I briefly just discussed deciphering between emergency and non-emergency situations. At any time, if a student is behaving in a manner that is threatening in the class and is disruptive, please don't call the QUB team. In cases like that where a student is, obviously a threat to others and they're being that disruptive in a class, we do ask that you call campus police. Mike Gorman, who couldn't be here today, is also an ad hoc member of the team and will come in on occasion to discuss cases and/or they'll be forwarding reports to us that we have to address and discuss. But in any emergency situation, please call 911. If you call 911 from anywhere here on campus, those phone calls are immediately dispatched to our campus police here, and they will respond within 90 seconds to your location. Non-emergency situations, examples of that, again, maybe a student is, crying excessively, or, they have expressed to you that they're sad or depressed. Those are non-emergency situations. Those types of situations, you may, if you feel comfortable enough to have the conversation with the student, you may or may not want to walk them over to the counseling center and or just make that QUB report. And sometimes if you feel comfortable with it, be honest with them and say, I really think that the Kane University Behavioral Intervention Team can really help you. They're going to connect you with resources. Please contact them as well. And I've already discussed with you how to submit a QUB report. So I've already discussed making the report. I did want to briefly talk about responsible employees, and every member of the Kane community is a responsible employee. So anytime a student comes to you and expresses, that they're wanting to harm themselves or harm their others, we want to make sure that you are getting that information forwarded. We also want to make sure that you understand at any time if a student is not sure about what they want to do or the next step that they want to take, know that we do have confidential resources on campus, which include health services, the counseling center, the student support advocates, which are, again, is Melissa Sturber, located in the Vice President's office, and they're also located in health services, and campus ministry is also confidential. And the difference between confidential and private is that, a student can come to my office and we can have a private conversation, but depending upon what is disclosed within that conversation, I am obligated by law to evoke a process. So if a student comes to me and says that they've been sexually assaulted, for example, I am obligated under Title IX to contact Charlie Williams, who is our affirmative action and our Title IX coordinator, and discuss the case with him, because there are certain conditions that we have to meet with the federal government to make sure that that student is getting the help and we're not allowing a situation to continue. So we do want to make sure that all faculty and staff understand that. Was I doing FERPA and confidentiality? Okay. We also adhere to the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. So all information that we do collect about students is protected under FERPA, and we do not disclose any of that information without the student's permission. That would also include having conversations with parents, and unfortunately in some instances it may also include having conversations with the faculty or staff member who made the referral. Especially if the situation has evolved into a student conduct issue, because then now that becomes a disciplinary record. If at all there is a time where we do need to share information with the faculty, such as we're asking the student not to return to class, such as we're asking the student not to have any contact with the faculty member or another student in the class, we are definitely letting you know that that is the case. I did just want to, someone else is going to pick up some other things on this slide, but I did mention the sexual assault. So on the folder that you'll get, again, we have copies that are available here. Once the folders are printed, we will be then sending them out to all faculty and staff. But every, again, Kane University employee is considered a responsible employee, and under Title IX, you are responsible for forwarding that information to Dr. Williams. There is no exception to that rule, so at any time, a student, no matter male or female or whomever, and no matter where the incident may have taken place, even if this sexual assault did not happen here on campus, even if it happened off campus, it may not even have involved another Kane student. We still need to know that information. So if a student comes to you and expresses those types of concerns, we are obligated by law, again, to make that referral. Sometimes, there may be situations where, the student, again, may not know what they want or how they want to proceed with this situation. Again, that would mean going to one of those confidential resources, but the choice is always theirs.
I just also want to express again that the purpose of QUB is not a punitive one. This is about helping our students. It's about getting them to the right resources on campus. As I'm hearing Nicole and as we're going through this process, I can imagine when you think about having to do reports and having to report this type of behavior, you may think that that is the case, and that really is not the case. We've been doing this for over 5, 6, maybe 7 years, a very long time. And again, we've been very, very sensitive to the needs of the student as well as your concerns. And so part of the conversation that we have with you when you refer a student is what will happen. We will share as much as we possibly can. But again, really the system is set up so that we can support our students. I'm very happy to say that we've had students who, like I mentioned before, have been very grateful, but also have done really well in their classes and have been able to progress and move on and utilize the resources. And that's really the goal of QUB. Okay.
So I want to start by reiterating what Maxie just said, and that is that QUB is not punitive. Rather, the goal of a QUB conversation is to create a safe place where we can wrap as much support and institutional resources around a student so that they can succeed both academically and personally. I want to go back and just reiterate as well what Nicole was saying about confidentiality versus privacy. Confidentiality means that we cannot give out the students' personally identifiable information without their express consent. Right? It means what's said in certain offices, such as health services, counseling, and my office as the Student Support Services Advocate, cannot be released without their express consent. That is a critical component of having an honest conversation with students. Privacy, on the other hand, is a conversation that is kept to the bare minimum of administrators who need to be made aware of a situation to put in effect a university directive, such as a no contact order or maybe changing a class or course arrangement. So that is the general overlay or difference between confidentiality and privacy. I wanted to go back and just reiterate again that counseling services, health services, and my office, which is the Student Support Services Advocate, are confidential resources. For those of you that are unaware of what a Student Support Services Advocate does, let me give you a little brief primer on it. It's a relatively new position to Kane University. My job is to have a conversation with students who are involved in sexual misconduct cases about the resources and the processes here at Kane University. I work with both alleged perpetrators as well as victims and survivors of sexual misconduct. My goal is not to adjudicate. That would be Nicole's job. My job is to listen, to make sure the student is safe, and to make sure that they understand the processes that are available to them. What they say to me is confidential. That means I cannot go around the university and say, we have a situation and this is what we're going to do. My job is to serve as a hub for information and knowledge about what Kane University does in the very complex processes of sexual misconduct. I also try to connect students to as many resources as possible. And again, this is for the alleged perpetrators as well as the survivors of sexual misconduct.
Hello again. So I just wanted to, I want to say just a quick couple words about what you're looking at here. So this is the Student Support Services Guide. So you might remember that there was a guide that we've been using in previous years. It wasn't maybe as colorful and as graphic as this, but it came like in a folder. So some of you might even still have it in an office, maybe in some dusty corner someplace, not sure. But we're hoping that this will be a little bit more user-friendly. So it was actually, the template was taken from another institution, and it was worked on by someone in my office, my associate director, Dr. Vidal Annan. So I just wanted to kind of make sure that he was acknowledged. He put a lot of effort into kind of creating this, and it has a lot of information on it. But like I said, hopefully it's in a more user-friendly type of way. So just to kind of highlight, you can see on the slide here, suicide hotlines. So again, Trinitas Hospital, it's a 24-hour hotline. Hopefully everybody knows where Trinitas is in Elizabeth. New Jersey Hope Line. Now that's a suicide hotline that's specific just to New Jersey, okay? So we wanted to make sure that people, are aware of these resources that they have. These are things that are posted on our website, of course, the Counseling Center, and probably in other types of venues. But you now have access to the information as well. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline, and then for veterans, the Veterans Crisis 24-hour hotline. So they basically call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, but if they're a veteran, they get kind of shifted to a particular type of specialist. I can say definitively, students use these hotlines. I have talked with several students, even in my short time here, and they have called these hotlines. So we really want to make sure that they are aware of it. And if, for whatever reason, I'm not saying, again, to go back to what was spoken about before, we are certainly not asking anyone here to step up and to become a psychologist or a counselor or anything of that nature. This is more about just informing you about what the resources are within our college community, but also even kind of outside the community. So that if a student does come in, if you are faced with a situation like that, you are that much better educated about maybe how to handle it. And that's really what it's about. I think it's really about all of us contributing as a community and to be able to be kind of open and receptive, especially if we see a student in need. And it's really about just observing behavior. It's not about kind of diagnosing or trying to kind of take it to that next level of counseling, right? And then the last sheet, let's see if I can move it up. Okay, this is just, a comprehensive list. So this would be kind of on the back cover of the folder. And it's just a nice list of all the resources here that we have. Obviously the intervention team, the counseling center, student health services, we're going to get that corrected, right? Student support services advocate, community standards, Office of Disability Services, that might be another resource if a student is maybe struggling with something like that. And just for you to be aware, that's part of my office. And then, of course, Kane University Police. And what's nice about this is it also contains all the information for the Kane Ocean campus, which I think is really nice to have. So, like I said, it's a lot of information to kind of digest. So when we actually do start printing these out and giving them out to people, please take a look at it. Keep it someplace kind of safe and that you're aware of where to get to and if you need it. And if you have any questions too, of course, as time goes on, you see something or have questions about something on the resource guide, we're basically here to answer questions about that as well. Okay?
Yeah, actually, and can we put it back on the other PowerPoint? Yeah, thanks. Okay, great.
Okay, so this, as Dr. Kiefner mentioned, this will actually be distributed to the entire community in the fall, in September. It actually is going to look like a folder, which we have received feedback was very helpful for individuals because you can actually put brochures in the folder. You can actually hold other materials in the folder. However, for today's session, we did print up some copies of it for you so that you have that in hand and you can refer to it maybe after this session and look at it a little bit more. We do welcome recommendations, so you may actually think about, well, can we add this office, or would you consider adding this information? And of course, you can reach out to any one of us and we will include that as much as possible in terms of fitting it into the folder. The other thing I also wanted to share is that we mentioned the Kane Ocean campus, which of course has services and support as well, as you'll see. In addition, our Wenzhou Kane University campus in China also has a QUB team. And they've put together their QUB team with the Assistant Vice Chancellor over there, Dr. Li Shu, who oversees the team. And again, they work in the same fashion that we do. They meet regularly, and faculty and staff report any concerning behaviors to that team as well. So the nice thing is that we're, again, addressing the concerns of all of our faculty and staff on both campuses in terms of how we're supporting our students. Okay? Just some very final thoughts, and if anyone else has anything up here from the panel, again, we want to help you. We're here for the staff, we're here for the faculty. We are here, reach out to us, send us the email, contact us, whether you're calling us, if you see us on campus and something is going on, please don't hesitate to reach out. We want to make sure that we're being proactive. You know, this is part of the process for us. If we see students that are at risk, if we can help them in advance, that's the reason why we're doing what we're doing here. Trust your instincts, please. Like I mentioned before, you have a student who's been doing great at one point, and for some reason you don't see the student often. I've actually had faculty members give me a call and have asked me to do a wellness check for a student. And I will send one of my staff members up to the student's residence hall room to see if they're doing okay. So again, we can do this by phone call, or again, you can do it through through the actual reporting system. See something, say something, just in general, even if you don't know who that student is, but you think to yourself, wow, I see the same person every morning in this classroom, and they may be sleeping in the classroom. So again, you want to report that information to us as well, or even to campus police. And again, as I mentioned before, help us to help you. So communication is key to all of this. I think that's also part of the message we want to send, is that we are here for you. I'm hoping that many of you have met these individuals on the stage. If not, you definitely have today. And I always think that it's important that we're all part of this presentation. That way you can make a connection with someone and feel comfortable to give them a call as well. Okay? And that is the end of our presentation, and we wanted to open it up to any questions you might have. Let me see. Yes, hi.
Yeah, it's a really good question. We do not have someone who is bilingual in the counseling center at this point, but it's definitely a priority for me. I think the majority of the students who come in, even though they might be coming from like a different country and English is not their primary language, they still have a good experience as far as communicating with us. I haven't run into any problems, and I haven't heard from my staff that it's a significant situation. Yes, I mean, to answer your question, if they were specifically looking for a bilingual therapist or psychologist, we would connect them with community resources that could provide something like that. Yeah.
Also, one of the student support advocates is bilingual out of my office, so if it was a sexual misconduct issue and they just needed to talk to somebody about services, we do have somebody who speaks Spanish out of my office.
I was actually going to share something because even in terms of the team, part of the conversation would be who would be the best person who could help in the situation, and that would be an option where Robin at that point might be able to say, well, I have someone in my office who could maybe work with that student. So that's the other important piece of how we strategize and get help to the student. Absolutely. It's a great question. Okay. Any other questions? I don't see any more hands. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. We do have some brochures up here, up front, as well as the resource guide we talked about earlier. Again, you'll get an updated version of the resource guide in the fall. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, guys.